Hi, I'm Dan Weedin. Welcome to this week's edition of Weedin Unleashed Live. Sorry that we missed last week. I was in our nation's capital, spending a week with a bunch of colleagues at a mentor summit, where I actually got to be an audience member, and so that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I missed our time together, and so I'm glad we're back and doing another edition. Before we dig into today, let me give you just a couple quick logistics. Weedin Unleashed goes live just about every Monday. We'll be back again next Monday, but just about every Monday at noon Pacific time. The only thing that would make that not happen is if I'm traveling like I was last week. So we'll be back next week and the week after, and hopefully most of the weeks after, right here on the Google broadcast, noon Pacific. And we'll be talking about the topic that I've written about on my Extra Points. Extra Points is my Monday morning newsletter. If you are not getting it right now, email me at dan@danweedin.com, and I will make sure that you get on that. You can also text, and I didn't have that up handy. At the end of the show, I'll bring that up, and I'll tell you how you can also text and get on to Extra Points to the free newsletter. Each week we'll be having a topic that will, at least the goal is to help you with some concepts, some topics, some best practices that you can use in your business to help you boost that business and enrich your life. So today we have a great topic that I'm really excited about. And there's two aspects to it that we're going to cover. Oh, one more piece of logistics. I see I've already got a question up from Dave. Dave, thank you very much. We're going to talk about that today. I'm going to kind of go through my initial part, and then I'm going to be answering questions and taking comments. You should see the question bar right next to you. There should be a blue header on there, and you should be able to ask questions or make comments. This is an interactive session. I hope you'll be joining us to do that. So let's get started right away on today's topic. Last week, as I mentioned, I was in Washington, D.C., and on Tuesday the 15th, a buddy of mine, a colleague from Toronto area, we went and decided to do some walking. Instead of getting a workout done in the gym, we thought, let's go out. It's a beautiful day, and let's go early and hit some of the sites. So we walked out to the White House, and I noticed that the flags were at half staff. And I didn't know why. I didn't think it was for tax day here in the United States. There had to be some other reason. And on inquiring with the security guard there, he mentioned that it was the anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's death. Abraham Lincoln was shot on April 14th, died on the morning of April 15th. And to add to that, it was 150th anniversary. It was 1865, 150th anniversary of his death. And I was a history major. I'm kind of a history geek, and I'm a big fan of Abraham Lincoln. So I said to Noah, let's go out and see the memorial. Well, we took a walk out and got a chance to see the cherry blossoms that were in bloom, and they only bloom for about a week, so I was lucky. We walked by the Washington Monument, past the World War II memorial and the reflecting pool, and made it all the way out. It was kind of a hike, made it out to the Lincoln Memorial. Took some pictures, really took in the glow of the meaning of what this man did and what his legacy is. Took a photo of the Washington Monument as the sunrise was coming over and texted to my wife, and had a great time. Well, as I was in the airport heading back here on Friday, I was looking at an article that included the full obituary article from 150 years ago on Lincoln. And it was done by a journalist. And at the bottom, he said that Lincoln was pronounced dead at 7:22 a.m. on the 15th. And all of a sudden, it hit me. I was there at exactly that time. I knew I was. I went back to the text that I sent Barb, and it was at 7:29. We'd already been there for easily 10 minutes. And so I thought, Isn't that serendipity? Isn't that great fortune that I was there at exactly the time? Now, it certainly wasn't location, but I was at his memorial at exactly the time he died 150 years ago. I thought that was kind of cool. As you look into it deeper, though, you have to have a mindset that you make your own luck. Several decisions I had made leading up to that allowed me to be there. Number one, it was that I'm not going to just go to the gym and run. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna go see a place I don't get to go to very often. I'm gonna go experience the city, experience our capital. That was decision number one. Decision number two was, well, looking at my watch when I found that out, the Lincoln Memorial was another 3 miles out there. We had to make a decision to make the hike out and know that we had to take a taxi back in order to get to our conference in time. There was a little bit of thinking there, and we decided to go ahead and do it. The third one that was, I think, just as important was to chronicle it, was to take pictures there and to text it on to my wife. So I had a history, so to speak, of when I was there, and I could actually know for sure that I was there at that time. So in a sense, I made my own luck. The same is true in business. There are many situations out there where we may feel we were in the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the wrong time. Well, in reality, I believe we make our own luck as well. The decisions that we make to move or not to move, to take risks or not to be bold or not to say something or not say something, those all come into play into making you lucky or unlucky. Think about where you are in your business today. I'll use me as an example. Here I am, nearly 10 years into my consulting practice. I had my best year in many factors, not only revenue, but in reward and what I consider significance as well last year. And I'm hoping that that continues on, and I'm taking strides to do that. But how did that occur? Is it lucky, or is it because I had made decisions to improve myself in my practice throughout those years? That's a long-term look. What about short-term? What are some things that have happened to you, let's just say in the last 30 days, where you've made a decision to improve yourself, to change something, to take a risk, to make a bold leap? What have you done? And what are the consequences, or actually the results of that? In reverse, what are the consequences of not having done something we may not know? This is a mindset thing, and it's something that I learned at Alan Weiss's Mentor Summit last week. You have to change your mindset. You can't always think that your good fortune is merely serendipity or your bad fortune is just bad luck. We are culpable in what we do and the decisions that we make, the probably thousands of decisions we have to make just in a single day. We are culpable for what happens to us and the luck that we make ourselves. So in my example, yeah, it was a little bit lucky in the sense that it happened to be that day and it happened to be that time. However, the decisions that I made to get there, to get up when I got up, to make the decision to have Noah come along, to go to the White House first, which is where he took me, and to ask the question. We looked at it. How many people would go up, see the flags at half-staff, and never ask anybody? There was another decision I didn't even mention. There was another decision was to ask somebody, why are the flags at half-staff? How many times have you not asked a question that later you wished you had? What could that have led to? On a positive side, how many times did you ask a question that you should have, and the result was as cool to you as this result was to me? Think about that. This is a mindset. What are we doing that creates our own good luck? The activities, the behavior, and most importantly, what's going on in your head. How is that making your luck a reality? I told you there was two things, and Dave, I promise I'm gonna get to your question. I know we have viewers out here. I see that down below. If you have questions, if you have comments on anything that I said, this is meant to be an interactive session. I encourage you to write over on the right-hand side and take part in this. The second thing is that I want to talk a little bit about Abraham Lincoln, 16th President of the United States, who is viewed as the savior of our country in the sense that the Civil War had the possibility of completely breaking us apart forever. And the emancipation of the slavery came about from him, and that was also just of last week, 153 years ago, that the Emancipation Proclamation came out. Now, we all look at Lincoln, and I think he's universally looked at by everybody as one of the greatest presidents we've ever had. He's up on Mount Rushmore, right? But at the time, he was not viewed that way by everybody. In fact, I'm thinking he's the only president ever who the day after he was elected, states actually seceded from the Union. They were that upset. When he ran against Stephen Douglas, who was a Southern Democrat, Lincoln was a Northern Republican. If Douglas would have won, the secession would not have happened. But Lincoln won. And immediately the Confederacy was being born. In his tenure, he had to fight through 5 years of civil war. And it became a stark reality to me when on Friday I went out to the Manassas battlefield where the Civil War actually began. Lincoln, as a human, obviously took all of this in and suffered with it greatly, but was able to still lead, regardless of what others thought about him. Even those in his own party and on his own side wondered about his leadership abilities. Yet he persevered and showed great leadership, was true to his convictions, and even though, admittedly, he made many mistakes, he never let that stop him. There's a great book out there, Lincoln on Leadership, and I recommend it. I've read it a couple of times. But aside from his own writing and his own example, if we take a look at our leadership abilities, whether it's as an executive or as a business owner, or even as what I am, a solo practitioner consultant, we have to lead in some form or fashion. How many times do we take the easy road, or we choose not to? We choose that to not get involved with conflict because we want to avoid it. Lincoln gives us a great role model on what to do, and I encourage you to read anything you can about him, especially at this time as we commemorate his legacy 150 years later. So, as is normally the case, I've gone on about 15 minutes, and I've got one question up by Dave, and I'm going to answer that now, but I want to encourage those of you out there who are on, if you have questions or comments, anything I've said, please include that. If you're watching this later on YouTube, which I know does happen, and you have a question regarding this broadcast, email me at dan@danweedin.com. So Dave asked, he had this up from the very beginning. Is there a balance of tasks you should be able to do for yourself business-wise versus what you should source out? So his example, so you aren't doing everything yourself, including learning how to do things you're not so good at or paying everyone to do everything. So he's asking about balance. Well, I know Dave, and I know that he's a consultant, and so I'll answer it from that perspective first, but I'd also like to piggyback on to that for those of you who might be executives or business owners, because there's a great value in that question as well. So the balance is this, Dave. You need to do things that maximize your talent and delegate those things out that, number one, you don't like to do. Number two, can be done by somebody else who's got that talent. And number three, to maximize your time and return on investment. So for instance, I don't do my own bookkeeping. I'm not even a numbers person. I know enough to keep track of records so I can give it to my accountant, my bookkeeper and my accountant for them to do. That's from a business side. Another business thing that I don't do is I don't create my own website. That's not my area of expertise. And I don't want to do it. Now they've set it up for me to easily use, but I'm not going to set that up. So they're part of my team. For those of you in consulting and solo practitioner consulting, your life intermingles a lot. I don't mow my own lawn. I have a high school kid come over and do that. Because I don't want to do that on the weekend. I can do something else that brings me more pleasure. Focus on what your talent is. Dave, focus on what your talent is. And this is the collective Dave, I guess the collective you. Focus on what your talent is, what you like to do, and what you bring most value to doing. And those other things that can be done by other people, you're going to gain by whatever you pay them in fees. You should be gaining a return on investment because you don't have to do them, and that they're getting done better, and your return on investment is great on that. I hope that answered for you as far as a consulting side. For those of you, the collective you out there that are business owners, this is even more true. Too many business owners I know try to do too many things because they don't want to ask the people that they're actually employing to do them. They're not good at delegating. Well, if you're the boss and you're out there making the coffee and making coffees and you're sweeping, you're sweeping the floor, you're doing all of that, that's too much. What is it that you do that improves your business and improves your company, that gets you more business? What is it that you do? You got to focus on that. 80% of what you do should be things that only you can do. And that probably applies to Dave's original question as well. 80% of the things that you are doing, activities and behaviors, should be things that only you can do. The rest should be delegated out. And it's going to be up to you to figure that out. And it's as easy as taking a piece of paper and a pen or a notebook of some sort and figuring that out, sitting down and figuring out, what are you doing today that you shouldn't be doing? I'll give you one more example. I met some people last week, some colleagues from around the country who are experts in things that I'm not an expert in. And one happened to be about protecting intellectual property. Great session that he put on. He and I are going to be talking later this week because I think I might need some help on that, and I have no clue, and I don't want to take the time to do it. It's not worth my time. My investment in hiring him will result in me having more time and more protection. It's a win-win. Dave, I hope that answered your question. Anybody else out there? I don't see any more questions popping in. Any other questions or comments? We'll be happy to answer those. And while I wait, let me just have some final thoughts here. You have great value that you have to give to other people. The biggest impediment to you being wildly successful is probably you and your thinking and how you've disciplined that. You can make your own good fortune. You can make your own luck by doing the activities and behaviors that lead you down that path. Sometimes we'll fail, just like Abraham Lincoln failed many times in trying to find the right general to lead the Union until Ulysses S. Grant came on the scene. But in those failings, you gain experience and you learn. And in so doing, the results will be better for you, for your clients, the work that you do. If you're a business owner, your employees, all of that makes a difference. So go out there and make your own luck. All right, this is This looks like I don't have any more questions or comments. I guess what I'll say is, in closing, thank you for being here. We'll be back next week. One of the things I learned from my new friend, the intellectual property guru, is to tell you that this is a Toro Consulting Inc. program. All rights are reserved here in 2015. And I did my due diligence. So you'll probably be hearing me do that a little bit more. If you have questions about that, I've got a guy to send you to, so let me know. Thank you for being here. We'll look forward to seeing you again next week, 12 o'clock Pacific time. And until then, I hope you have a great week and that you make all the luck go your way. Until next week, ciao.